All right, you're on.
Well, thank you. So we're back. It's fall, our first guest of this fall season. Hope everyone had a great summer. It was an amazing summer for me, busy. Jessica is our first guest, Jessica Mowforth, who's an holistic, intimacy, and relationship coach. She can be found on social media, Instagram at Jessica Mowforth. Her last name is spelled Mowforth on Instagram. Her website is jessicamowforth.com. Hello, Jessica. How are you?
Hey, I am so great. How are you guys doing?
I'm very excited. As you know, I follow you on social media, and I think I saw one of your posts, and I laughed and I said, ridiculous. That's what I said. But then you and I were talking a bit throughout the summer, and I said, I want you to be our first guest coming out of this, because, Dan was away in his trailer all summer, so unavailable for most of the summer because he's Mr. Popular. But I think it's important with what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
To have a woman like yourself on the show with a great story and a great message out here in our region, in Durham region, being able to provide a service that I think is very important. So can you just tell me a little bit about what you do?
For sure. First, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be the first of the fall. So I like to be the first of things. So that worked out in my favor. So thank you guys for having me. Like Will said, I am a holistic intimacy and relationship coach. So what that means is I take my training and experience as a registered holistic nutritionist and then synergistically combine it with my training in relationships, conscious communication, and tantra. And I use it all together to help you cultivate intimacy within yourself so that you can bring that into your relationship, whether it's a marriage, whether it's whatever kind of romantic partnership you have, whether you are engaged, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Do you work with men and women?
Men and women, yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you some questions here because I find this fascinating. And I think Dan will have his own, Dan's different.
Questions. Okay.
Yeah, no, I got one first.
You already have one. Wow.
So you started out as a nutritionist?
Yes. But not just a nutritionist, like a holistic nutritionist. So it's kind of like a holistic lifestyle where we don't just talk about what foods we put in your body. We also talk about how to take care of ourselves, body, mind, and soul. So including relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So during COVID, I think everyone's discussing our new normal. And can you explain to us how people can navigate one, just starting to sort of date in this kind of weird world, and two, how you can, with dating, and more of it's going to be online now, obviously, communication.
First, communication is key. And I think that we're starting to learn this more and more now as we are further and further from people in an actual physical space. But bringing up COVID brings up so many things, because not only do we see it creating shifts in the dating world, but we also see it creating shifts in current partnerships, with people either getting closer or people breaking apart completely because they're learning more and more about their partner that they may or may not love so much, and may or may not have noticed that was their partner that they actually were with when they get to see them in work environments and under pressure and all of these things. So that conversation can go in many directions. But when we're speaking specifically to dating, we're obviously seeing a lot more online, and it's apps such as like Tinder and Bumble and things like that, but we're also seeing it in Facebook and online networking events. So it's understanding the communication from a different perspective, because you don't have that physical connection to see if you're vibing that way. The beautiful thing about this is it gives you that physical distance to truly create an intimate connection with someone, as opposed to just a chemical reaction called chemistry, which can jump people very quickly to physical interactions. So without that being there, it allows us to get to know the other human being on the other side of the computer or the phone and what they're about, and really discover what it is that we're looking for as well, because you've got to have conversation. You've got to talk about things. You can't just have the emojis that people are just sending around. You've got to actually put an effort.
No. And so let me ask you a question. This is an aside. So let's say you go on a first date, wearing your mask or whatever. Okay. How soon after? Because again, I got with Melissa, eons before texting was a thing. But
I know where this question's going.
You go on your date, you get home, The date's great. How soon do you text that person? Is it immediately? Is there a waiting period? I've heard mixed stories.
Okay, so this question actually didn't go where I thought it was going to go, but maybe that'll be the follow-up question. I think it depends on a few things. I personally also, and people are probably not going to love that I say this, but I think that there's a difference when it's a man and a woman as well. I think that it depends. So often what happens when you're going on a date with a gentleman, and maybe there was shade in the way I said that, but when you've got a gentleman on the other end of this, often he will say, text me when you get home so that I know that you're home safe. So if that's the case, then I would say absolutely text him when you get home to let him know. If not, it's just kind of like not very courteous. He's being kind and looking out for your safety. Right. So engage in that for sure. But if that's not the case, I would wait.
How long?
Being the woman, I would wait completely, to be honest with you. Like,
so it is a game. So it's a game then, right? You're saying it's a game?
It's a game. It's understanding the push and pull of desire and the way the human mindset works. It's not a game like, oh, I'm better than him, and because I'm a woman, therefore he should do these things. It's understanding the way a man's brain works, especially in desire, and understanding the way the woman's heart does. So we build chemicals very differently, where if we have a great date, oftentimes we go home and we're fantasizing about our life and what it's going to look like with you. He's got this great job. He looks like this. Our kids are going to look like this. The home we're going to live in is going to look like this. It's easy for us to create this imaginary fantasy of what our relationship's going to look like with you. And when that happens, it's very easy to get very excited and sometimes share that with him very quickly. Well, understanding the way a man's mind works, that won't fly. He'll hear that and be like, well, damn, maybe not. This is quite intense. So it's understanding that. It's not playing games with people. I just think that when you check yourself and you understand this is a first date, we're getting to know each other, there's pacing involved in getting to know each other, that if you sit back, a man instinctively wants to pursue if he's interested.
Right.
And if he's not interested, then he's not going to have that pull. And it's also allowing yourself to fuel that within him. He wants that. He likes that. And it's not about the playing the games. You need to be reciprocating. Like, you're not going to wait 2 days. He messages you and then you don't message him for a week. It's not this whole playing hard to get. It's just being mindful of what you're trying to create and the dynamics that can create the intensity in that and make it so much more fun. That's just my opinion on it.
Well, I kind of like that.
And if the man doesn't really have to wait. Like, if he wants to text the next day, cool. I can promise you, if the date went well, she's going to want you to. Right.
No. And you should really understand if the date went well based on just how you guys sort of connect as well. So, yes.
If you have any sort of self-awareness, you'll know. Oftentimes the man will, and the woman could bring it up. It could be an engaging conversation, but oftentimes if it went really well, there will be some form of a combination between the two of you about seeing each other again.
Dan, any questions right now, or can we continue here?
No, I think that was genius, because you definitely don't want to be a stage one clinger after the first date, right?
Oh my God.
And sometimes she's not a stage one clinger. She just has a really great imagination and gets excited, and
which is a great quality.
It is a great quality, and men actually want that. It's just being self-aware in the delivery of it.
Now, when you say self-aware, now let's talk about just social media and the stupid TikTok thing. Because I know when you go on a date, and again, listen, 05, there was no Facebook. I think Twitter was just starting. There's nothing really back in 05. Yeah. And so when now you're going to go on a date with somebody, or you're dating someone, you go onto their Facebook page or whatever, what are the things people should and should not be doing on their pages to sort of maintain, I don't even know, not to, to sort of remain attractive or to draw that guy in or that girl in or whatever?
What are you checking out Facebook pages for a job interview, Will?
Well, and that's what I was just going to say. And that's actually a very good point, because people for like employers are looking at people's social media for the exact same reason. And I believe that both men and women should or could assess their partners in a similar way, depending on what you're looking for. If you are at an age where you are ready to create a commitment, that you want to look for a husband or a wife that is going to be the mother or father of your children, you want to know what you're getting into. Now, you're not going to know everything, and everything that you see on their social media, I promise you, is not exactly who they are. So you've got to take that as a grain of salt. But at the same time, if you go on somebody's social media and they're flashing themselves naked and getting trashed every weekend and having no consideration of the lifestyle that you would want to create with them, that's an indicator to have a conversation with the person. Right. Is this something that you're trying to portray because you're trying to attract something else for a purpose? Okay. Or is this who you are? And is that going to be in alignment with what I'm trying to create with you? It's not coming from a place of judging that person. You're judging them as your partner. This is a partner, not just a person. So it's not like you're better or worse than this, but you're seeing if that person is in alignment with what you are trying to create. So the self-awareness comes into what you're putting out there as well. If you are at a time in your life where you're like, I want to meet my husband or my wife or significant other, whatever way that looks for you, when you look at your social media, knowing that this is part of your resume, is that going to attract what you want it to? And you now get to choose what you put on that. And be open for that other person to ask you questions about that.
Because I believe dating should be, sorry, Dan, I believe dating should be sort of like, like an employer looking for somebody. Like my background is in HR.
No.
I know. That's just me.
Ridiculous.
It's different. It depends. There's different intentions. So if you look at my social media, it is very much designed around my business.
Right.
I don't do a ton of personal stuff on my social media. There is some, of course, because I want you to get to know me, the face behind all of that. Right. But for somebody that was looking to date me, I would want them to look at my social media, get an idea of what I'm passionate about, but then also really engage in who I am and what it looks like in my real life. Just because I am an expert in intimacy and talking about relationships doesn't mean that I'm perfect at them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you need to understand the difference. So if you're looking at someone's page that you know is designed around the nature of their business, it's your responsibility to get to know them as a person. And even if they aren't, social media is very easy to be someone that you're not. So it's still your responsibility to not make full assessments or expectations or assumptions, You've got to get to know that person and ask a lot of questions. Get curious. Yeah. Stop giving answers and start asking questions, and you'll learn a lot more.
That's good. That's good advice. Mm-hmm. Dan?
No, you ruined it when you cut me off. Because you ruined it.
Get out of here. Ask your question there, Peter.
No. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. But then she morphed into it afterwards and covered off what I was going to say. So it was really good. It was really good because you're diving too deep into this whole social media profile. See, for me, if I'm looking at somebody's social media profile, I'm doing it to find out what they look like. And then the rest of it, I'll find out when we meet in person, because anybody can write anything that they want. Like if my wife ever would have seen my Facebook page before she would have dated me, she would have ran away with a 10-foot pole, because there's like fallen down drunk pictures. There is like pictures when I was 40 pounds heavier. It would have been an absolute disaster, right? And those are things that, sure, I've woken up in a snowbank in my underwear before, but that's not a regular occurrence.
I miss those days.
But you know what? Those moments are the ones that people take pictures of, right? And they end up going on social media. And I'm not that pretentious that I delete all those, right? So they're there, but I would never dive so much like I'm doing a job interview into somebody's personal pages, right?
So I can say two things to that. 100%. You can even, I wouldn't even assume that that person necessarily 100% looks the way they do on social media, because now with the amount of filters and apps that can change the way you look and lighting and poses and all these things, you even don't even know that. However, this comes back to the self-awareness where I wouldn't necessarily say presumptuous or whatever. What was the word that you used that made you not want to take your photos off?
I don't know. That was like a thesaurus word that I pulled out.
Stickler.
Pretentious.
Pretentious. Thank you.
There you go.
So I don't think it makes somebody pretentious. I think it makes somebody self-aware. If I was knowing that I was going to utilize my social media to get more dates, I personally would not keep pictures of me trashing a snowbank in my panties.
Okay, fair point. Fair point. But that's
Did you say panty stand?
Listen, that's a very fair point and very valid. I'm not talking about using it specifically to try to get dates. Like I'm talking about just going around your everyday life, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, I wonder what this guy's like or this girl's like, and they check out your profile, right? Like that's two totally, I'm talking more Facebook, although I was told the other day that I'm ridiculously old because I use Facebook.
It's TikTok, right? But again,
I've never been on that, so I don't know.
Makes no sense to me.
But it was utterly ridiculous. But that's like, I'll look at Tinder, which again, I've never actually been on, but I have seen people swiping through. Now that is one where I would never put any salt into anybody's profile picture because some of the stuff that they post there, but they're on there for usually one thing, right? So it serves its purpose.
Well, there's a lot of people actually now, and I've seen a ton of it, especially over COVID, use it for more than just one thing. Are there a lot of people using online dating for just straight up hookups? Yes, because we live in a time where hookup culture is huge, which can be a whole other podcast because I've got lots of opinions on hookup culture. But that is why anybody that is on online dating, I heavily urge you to talk to that person on the phone and to FaceTime them, because there's a lot of catfishing going on. And I don't know if this is real, but I've heard the term trouting, which is, so catfish is where you have pictures that are completely not you. Like you pretend to be someone that you are not. But trouting it is the actual person, but maybe their picture is 7 to 10 years old. Or so you show up and all of a sudden they're 40 pounds, 50 pounds overweight, or maybe they said that they were 6 feet tall and really they're 5'7", or whatever it is, where they're not like totally not being themselves. They're kind of being themselves, but you show up and you're like, listen, I was led to believe something completely different, and that's still unacceptable. Be real. You know these people are going to see you. Stop it.
Will trouted last week. He posted a picture with hair.
Okay. Well, I had hair until
I saw that picture. You posted that picture. I was like, who is that?
Was it a throwback Thursday or a flashback Friday?
I think it was yesterday, wasn't it?
It was sometime
Sunday.
Well, let's talk about that trouting thing, because that is a common thing.
That's a real thing, yeah.
In Tinder and in other dating apps where people post, and I also think realtors have the same issue where they have the same business photo from 1999.
I've actually heard that from realtors too.
At their peak in hotness, and then you see them in person, and you're like, what the hell? So how often should you be updating your photos in these things? Should it be within the last year? What are the rules?
I think pictures within the last year would be okay. I would change your pictures up every 6, 8, 12 months for sure. And it comes back to self-awareness again. Honey, if you're putting up a picture that you know doesn't look like you, male or female, I don't care. Stop it. Like if you are questioning the picture no, just don't do it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to show up on the date, and it doesn't matter how well you get to know this person over text and how much they seem to like you. You're lying, and that's going to break trust. You may have tons of things in common and have great conversation. If they show up and they see that you're not that person, then it's going to be off-putting. Like, and I'm also speaking, like, I'm putting myself in that position where, so you're a great guy, but you're also a liar. And you led me to believe something that isn't actually true, so that I'm probably going to question if a lot of the conversation and what you delivered in that is also not totally the truth.
Right.
So
what do you think makes people do that when they know they're going to see you anyway? Because if I sent somebody a picture that didn't look anything like me and then showed up to this date, I would feel like a complete jackass when I get there, and you're looking at me with like these weird eyes going, this doesn't even look like the same guy.
Listen, I thought I was meeting Will, and
there's Dad, right?
yeah, no, totally. And I would be in the same boat where I would be very uncomfortable with that, because the whole, like, can you think of the amount of anxiety getting to that date, knowing that someone's believing you are or look something completely different? I think it comes from a lot of insecurities. I think that people believe that, well, I'm going to start conversations with them and we'll build a rapport and a connection that way. And then I'll talk to them and be honest and let them know that I really, really like them. And I was afraid that they wouldn't like me. And to me, that's starting a relationship based off of lies and insecurities, which is like building a condo on quicksand.
Right.
So,
because you mentioned hookup culture, and hookup culture, I think, also creates a very insecure kind of dating pool, because people are not sure of people's intentions. So how do you get past that mentality into building a relationship?
Well, if you are online, I'd put it in your profile. I don't think it necessarily has to be like not looking for any hookups. I find that when you go on the negative, it's just a little bit more off-putting, or it just is, it gives off a different energy than if you actually spoke about what you're looking to commit to. Right. So instead of saying, I'm not looking for, talk about all the things that you are looking for. You look like you know what you want. You look confident and secure in what you want. And I can tell you that if you write that I'm looking for a partner that's interested in building a commitment together and exploring the world and doing these things and building a family, somebody that's looking to hook up on Friday night for an hour is probably not going to want to reach out to you, because they can tell that you're going to be more effort.
Right.
Ooh, that'd be a tough one though. Because if you write those exact words that you just said, which was beautifully said, by the way, you won't get the ones that just want the Friday night hookup. But if you do have a guy that's kind of interested in finding a long-term relationship, if I read all that, I'd start to worry that maybe she might want a little too much too soon. How do you kind of make it so that way everybody's not going to get scared off, and then you're sitting there with no messages?
For sure. And it would be definitely in the way that you're wording it. And I'd probably talk about the things that you're interested in your own life on an individual level first, so that you can deliver that you are confident in who you are as an individual, and that you're at a stage in your life where you're looking to kind of share that with somebody. I think in a dating profile, you can only put so much in there, but at the same time, that's coming a little pretentious if you think that you're that person. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at that and all of a sudden you're like, she's going to fall in love with me. Well, just because I say I want a husband doesn't mean I want you to be my husband.
Fair.
So, but it also means that I'm looking for that potential. And it's also getting to know the person. Like, if you know that what she said or he said in the profile is something that you would like to work towards, then you can have a conversation and say, I love what you wrote in there. Do you have are you aware of when you'd like to create that by? Or I wouldn't even get even that stuffy about it. Like, just reach out and have a conversation and say, I'm interested in this as well. I can see, or you can talk about yourself and say, I can see myself getting married too. I would like it kind of in the next 5 years. So that if she's like, I want to get married in the next year, then you clearly know. That's where communication is key. And for sure, you need to be aware of what you put in your profile. But I think letting somebody know that you're looking for more of a commitment is going to serve you better than if you just kind of say, I'm a 5'8" redhead that likes to have fun and travel and explore, because you're going to get all kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah.
So. And you're also saying not to compromise too. So if you hear in your first conversation that your goals are not aligned, walk away.
Exactly, exactly. And if you write something in there that you do have a man, and no judgment, Dan, but if the man is already assuming that you're going to think he's or your husband or something, well, maybe I would not want to attract that person either. I've had a lot of experience with my clients that have put in certain things that have actually created relationships from it and avoided getting flocked by the wrong attention.
Right.
And I've actually done it for men as well that have brought in female partners as well. So it's because it's just getting super self-aware and understanding what it is that you want. And then, yes, there is terminology where you also don't want to be that rigid person that's like bullet points where you're sitting there and you've got to check off. He needs to be this height, this weight, this job. By this year, you better marry me. But I better have this ring. Then we're going to have a honeymoon. No, that's crazy too.
Right.
Yeah, well, aren't you glad all we had to do was go to like a nightclub and we found our wives, and it'd be.
I say that that was the easiest. I could not date today.
No,
now, speaking of, Dan and I have been married. Dan, I think we got married the same year, right? 2010.
2010.
Yeah, so 10 years for me this week. Married. How does someone in a long-term relationship keep things spicy?
So speaking to men, I would say keep dating your wife.
Right.
Like, you've got to keep dating your wife. It's so funny. And I had this conversation with a man the other day, and he was like, she's changed. Like, when I met her and I dated her, she would do this, she would do this, she would do this. And I'm like, yeah, when you started dating your wife, what did you do? And he's like, I did this, I would do this for her and this for her. I said, do you do those things now? No. So why is she going to continue to show up the way she did when you stopped showing up the way you did?
I agree.
It takes work. You've got to keep dating your wife. There's a big difference between love and desire. And love is not what creates a successful relationship. It's part of the recipe. But you've also got to put in the effort that creates the desire. Right. Understanding who you are as an individual and taking care of yourself and those needs and passions so that you're not codependent and attached to the other partner. What do you need in your life to feel good and secure about you so you can then share that? So then all of a sudden, when you're taking space from your wife because you're now going and doing this, and this, because this is what lights you up, you bring that energy home and you're going to be desirable. She's going to be desirable. And she's like, babe, actually, I'm not going to lie around in bed with you all day in track pants. I'm going out and I'm training for a marathon and I'm going back to school and I'm learning this. And I'm actually going to pick up some dance classes because it makes me feel good in my body. You're going to be like,
honestly, I agree with you 100%. I swear, like, honestly, I agree. I'm not an expert at marriage, but my marriage is pretty good. And I believe
that's because you have no kids.
What's that?
It's because you have no kids.
But you know what? Having no kids, though, is actually harder because kids distract you in a relationship. You were distracted with the kids. Melissa and I are literally together during this COVID all the time. And have our own things.
The kids are a lot of work. I do not have my own kids, but I do have clients with kids, and they are a lot of work, and they take some of your energy.
They do.
And it's just being mindful that you have kids. So because you have kids, are you choosing to sit in the misery of my life is over, my sex life is over, my desire, my marriage is over? Or you're going to say, I have kids. Now, what am I going to do to continuously light that flame? Because your kids aren't just going to go away. And I promise you, if they did, you'd be devastated. And that would be a whole other conversation. So you've got those kids. You chose to have those kids. You chose to be in that marriage. You want to be in that marriage. You want to be the father of those children. But you also want desire and heat in your relationship. So what are you going to do about it? It takes two to tango. And it takes work. Relationships are work. Relationships are going to teach us our biggest things. And right now, and I can tell, Dan, by the look on your face, is there's thresholds. So it's like you meet a threshold, you get comfortable. We use excuses, and this is not a youth thing. This is a human thing. We've been married this long, COVID, I have kids. But if this is something that you want, kind of like if you wanted to get a new job, or you wanted to change your career, or you wanted to change your body or learn a new skill, you have to put in work to do that. So what work are you ready to commit to then get to that next stage in your partnership?
Right.
Make sense?
Dan? No, it's 100%. You know, I've always said this, you know, it's so important. And I know going through turning 40, because, you know, you're seeing a lot of our friends. I don't know if you have friends, Dan. I have friends going through divorce.
One or two.
Divorce, right? What's that?
I have one or two.
Same age. I don't know, 42.
You can't make me laugh when I'm about to drink.
Yeah.
One or two friends. Do you have any friends, Dan?
But, you know, let's say if you're coming out of a marriage, how do you get yourself back into dating? Because that would be tough.
It would be hard, especially if you have been married for 10 years, where dating was very different then than it is now. Right. I would start just kind of asking a lot of questions. I would probably take on a relationship coach for a couple of reasons. Not only do you want to be reacquainted with what the dating world looks like, but you also want to heal from the past relationship you're in, because if you don't, you're going to bring that into your new relationship, and you don't want that. So you want to make sure that you're good, even though you feel consciously well in your mind. You've got to make sure that there's a lot of debris that's been left over and mourn that relationship, even though you wanted to get out of it. If you were with somebody for 10 years, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, you're going to need to mourn that relationship, whether you like it or not. So it's going through that process. It's understanding where you could take responsibility for what went wrong in that marriage, because if you go where it's about the other person, you're going to create that same shitty partnership moving forward, because you are not showing up as you're making it the responsibility of somebody else. So look at where you screwed up in the marriage, or I don't even want to say screwed up, but where you contributed to the lack of success in the marriage, and how you can grow more in the relationship. Talk to an expert that knows what's going on in today's day and age, so that you can actually work with that person to explore and get curious about what it is that you view as a successful relationship, so that you can attract that in, and maybe round 2 will be much more of a success than round 1.
I like that. Dan, you're very quiet today. I don't know what's going on here.
I'm at a loss. It's just that's bang on.
You're 100% right, Jessica. 100% correct.
So I'm expecting emails or something from both your wives after that saying thank you.
Well, you met my wife. You know how she is.
Yeah.
She'll probably email you saying you might have helped Will out, but I don't.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm like.
Will's already our spicy pea. He's
Right, but so let's talk about, like, why are some people then still single? Is it because they haven't dealt with baggage, or dealt with their childhood, or you know?
There's many, many reasons why people are single. There's people that are more committed right now to building their career than they are a partnership. So just because someone's single doesn't necessarily mean there's either something wrong with them or they haven't dealt with something. It may mean they're either choosing to be, or they may have not dealt with something from the past, or they are very clear on what they want and they haven't met the person that they feel is in alignment to themselves. There'd be a few reasons why. So I would first, for somebody that is single that's looking to get into a relationship, ask yourself why you're single. Are you single because you're looking for this like perfect partner? Well, you're going to be looking a really long time, because there isn't a perfect partner, and
Will's been married for 10 years.
I know. If I can get married, anyone can. I know. Isn't it amazing? Again, it really is about what Jessica is saying. It really, truly is about communication. And having your own stuff in life. You can't do everything together as a married couple.
And you also don't want to settle. You don't want to get to that point where you're like, I'm of a certain age that I just need to get into a relationship. Get to know yourself and what you want in a relationship, and better yet, understand how you want to show up in that relationship. Right. And you'll start to attract that in, and then you get to choose whether you want to be in it or not. But stop looking, like I suggest people throw out their checklist of what they need to look like just on a physical manner, and create a list of how you want to feel. So when you're in a relationship, in your marriage, and you want to feel loved and loving, kind, generous, patient, connected, curious, adventurous, excited, passionate. If you want to feel these things, then when you're dating somebody and you start to feel these things, you'll know that you're in alignment with them. Well, this person may not be an entrepreneur or a famous athlete. This person may not be 6'3" and has a 12-pack. They may not be of a certain race. Like, we don't know. And people need to open their minds to a variety of everything, because there's so much more out there that we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know. And those are our blinders, our blind spots. So if instead of just writing down what we know, be open to what you don't, but understand what you want to feel. So when you're with that person and you feel anxious and you feel suspect and you feel uncomfortable and on edge and bored and turned off, well, that's probably not your person, even though that person could be what you've written down as your checklist. He could be 6'3" and jacked and has all the money and a fancy car and all those things, but you're with him and you're like, I feel kind of yucky. Like, I just don't know if I trust you, and I know I don't really feel good, but you look really good, so that must mean you're right for me. Absolutely not. So write lists, but be very different in your list, because you have no idea. Have you ever dated outside of your race? Because a lot of people haven't, but you could learn a whole lot about a completely different culture.
That's true.
So
you're saying they should really take the pressure off.
Yeah. Dating should be fun. And when there's pressure, it's really hard to be excited and curious about it. When you get rid of the pressure and you're like, okay, so this isn't necessarily normally what I would go for, but I feel really good. So I'm going to try it and see what happens. And don't have the expectation that it's going to turn into something. This feels good for me right now. I'm clear on what it is that I'm looking for, and this feels good for that. So I'm going to try this. If we go on a couple of dates and it turns out he or she is more of just a friend, then you can have that conversation. But more times than not, when I work with people and we kind of pivot that mindset, they meet someone that they shock themselves with how into them they actually are, when if they walked by them on the street, they wouldn't have looked at them twice.
True. Oh, that makes... You have Dan quiet here, so Dan's in agreement with you, which I am surprised by this.
No, it's very enlightening.
You make a lot of sense, Jessica. I think people make things in life so difficult, and it's unnecessary. Enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Enjoy your time, because one day you'll be dead. So just enjoy the progression of any relationship that you have. Nothing's perfect, but everything that you want in life takes work. That's what you're saying.
It does, on both parts.
Yeah.
On both parts. And it's uncomfortable, but that's okay, because
isn't that the greatest gift, to be awkward and uncomfortable?
Yeah. And lean in. When you feel the discomfort, know that there's a growth moment for you. So lean into it and be like, okay, I don't like this right now. Normally I'd like to take off, but I kind of want to explore something more about myself. So I'm going to see what this is, and understand your instincts too. Like, if this is like a warning sign, like get the heck out because you are physically or emotionally unsafe.
Right.
That's very different than being like, this person doesn't look the exact way, or they don't have the exact career, or they're a different race, or they're maybe 5 pounds or 10 pounds overweight, and whatever it is. You never know. Right. You never know, but you want to pay attention to how you feel, because I can tell you, I know a lot of people that on the surface are like magazine worthy, gorgeous couples and have gorgeous children, and they want nothing to do with each other behind closed doors.
Right.
So.
And that's the reality, people think marriage is fun. Marriage is a lot of work.
Marriage is work.
Marriage is, there are days I go, why? you just go, why? But then you realize it's like anything else, it's worth the work. Yeah. Because you don't want to be on your deathbed going, why didn't I try harder?
Exactly, for sure. And even talking on that is, people seem to think that in order to have a healthy and great sex life, you need to look like the porn stars, when that is also so wrong. The amount of people that I know that look like they would be fantastic in bed are some of the most insecure people I know. So that's another thing, is that when you have this idea in your head that you need to look a certain way for yourself to be sexually appealing to somebody, or for you to be good when you're sharing an experience with your partner, that's also completely bogus too. Because in those same relationships where these people are people that walk down the street and other people look at them, have terrible sex lives sometimes. So
yeah, and I would assume that social, like you look at like Instagram and you have all these models, and it does get like, you know, pounded to your brain that you have to look a certain way. So I would say it would be hard for someone that's, you know, living through social media to sort of separate that reality to their own reality.
And it's the same as people that watch a lot of porn and think that that's the reality. That's one, the way they need to look like, but two, that's how you're supposed to have sex, which is absolutely crazy. And there's different websites, like yourbrainonporn.com is so fascinating because it actually talks about the way porn totally messes up your brain chemistry and derails your relationships, starting with derailing the relationship you have with yourself.
I see Will writing this down. Will's going to do
I'm going to check this out. I've never heard of that. So I'm going to check that out.
I didn't hear of it either.
There's a few different, NoFap or there's another one as well. And it really talks about the porn industry and its detriment to emotional intelligence or emotional connection and your brain. It rewires it. It makes you very like addicted to, how do I word this? It changes your reality of what it is. So you're addicted to it looking a completely different way. Right. So not only are you interested in it looking a different way, but you're controlled by it being a different way.
And it's also like, it's so easy to get it. Like I think about, remember
literally
being a kid,
like in your pocket.
Yeah, but remember being a kid and you go to the video store. Look, and you have the back section of the video store with the Christmas lights.
That's how you know you're 18.
X and red, like neon. And then we had a friend who was old. He had a beard at 6, who was able to go there and rent movies for us. That is not a thing today. There was no internet when I was a kid, right? So it's interesting because it's so available now. What's that?
Magazines and videos. You'd go and find them in older cousins or parents' drawers or whatever.
Exactly.
And that would be that. And now literally it is in your back pocket, and not just your back pocket, your children's. So you need to start having that conversation too, because especially right now when there's so much sex trafficking and pedophilia going around with this TikTok, and now it's on Instagram, there's a lot of creepy things going on. So this conversation needs to be had more sooner than later.
Wow.
So
interesting. See, that's why I'm not a parent. The parents have it so hard. I laugh. I think it's great. Anything, Dad? You've been so quiet. I've learned so much today.
Hard to get a word in with you.
I'll stop.
I'm kidding. You know I love it.
Anything to add, Dad? Because I've asked all my questions.
No, I'm good. This has been an absolutely wonderful interview. I've learned an awful lot of stuff.
Yay.
No, very good information there, Jessica. Honestly, like people don't realize the value in talking to someone, even, messaging you and setting up a meeting, just to talk about, where they are in their own relationships, against someone's expert advice, to get their mind, retooled and working. Because sometimes people get stuck in a routine.
Yeah.
And that routine, though they think works for them, may not work for their relationship. And I think it's so important that they hear someone like yourself speak to how relationships are today, and what you can do to sort of inject some nuances, something new into your routine that will make you feel better and better about what you have in your relationship.
Yes. Thank you. Relationships are supposed to be enjoyable as much as their work, and as much as they have moments of discomfort, they're meant to be enjoyable. This whole thing about you get married, you stop having sex, you may or may not have children, and you die, is like, it fuels my why. Because I'm like, no, that is not what it's supposed to be like at all. To the point where you even have like little things that go on top of wedding cakes where it's like a ball and chain. I'm like, I understand that there's humor behind that, But do you see how programmed we are that we now even have the things that go on top of your wedding of a ball and chain? So when you see these things over and over again without you even noticing, you create these belief systems that then become your lenses, and that's what you see it through, which is why we have such a large demographic of people right now that are totally fear-ridden by marriage and commitment because of what society has made it mean.
Yep.
So that's why you need to speak to somebody that's outside of your brain, because you only know what you know, and you don't even know what you're controlled by within your own brain, because you can't see anything else but that. But if you at least come with a willingness to see something different and choose to seek out someone that can share the difference, then you'll learn a whole lot more about you that can actually bring that excitement and that love and that passion and desire to commitment without it just dissolving and fizzling out. So,
Oh no, again,
get the surface.
You have Dan very quiet. So Dan's intrigued. Dan has learned so much today.
My mind's rolling. This is good. Very good.
Like, how healthy is it in a relationship to disagree? And you could healthily argue without it being a yelling match.
Oh, Will, it's brilliant. We disagree all the time.
Yeah.
I say something.
Disagreeing is totally fine. You're two different humans that have gone through two completely different experiences of life.
Right.
I think it's a great thing that opens up a conversation and a dialogue to learn more about each other. And if you can be two people that genuinely care about each other and remember that when you have a disagreement, then it allows you to come from the space of being curious about the other person and learning something else as well, as opposed to needing to be that person with the answers. Again, come with questions. And here's the thing about people that have been married a long time, like you guys had mentioned, is you seem to think that you've been married to the same person for 10 years. You also seem to think that you're the same person that you are for the last 10 years. Are you guys still there?
Oh, we are. Yeah.
Oh, weird. I love you guys probably had a face like, why did she just stop?
Yeah.
It literally just went blank. Like my whole screen went white and it went to my like navigation bar, which is so strange.
I was like, she's going to say something gold right now.
Right. Mic drop. I'm going to come back to that. Is we continuously evolve as people. So don't like get your knickers in a knot when you're like, oh my gosh, one person for the rest of my life. No way. That person is constantly evolving. If they're not, if they choose to stay sedentary and they don't want to promote any sort of growth in their life, that would be a very challenging person to date. I could not be with somebody that didn't have growth as part of their goals, because as someone continues to grow, every year you're married or dating a completely different person than they were last year. So now the cool thing about that is you can get curious about who you're dating now. So your wives, you can go home and be like, I haven't actually checked in on who you've become in the last, I don't know how long. Ask them the same questions you asked them when you were starting to date them. What are your favorite foods? What do you like to do? What turns you on? What turns you off? What has changed about you? What are your goals in the next 5 years? Don't assume you know because you live with them or because you've been married to them for 10 years.
Right.
Brilliant.
That's really good advice.
So
that's very good advice.
So for those people out there that have commitment issues because they think that they're with one person for the rest of their lives, no way.
No,
that's
I don't know.
Exciting part.
Awesome.
This is really good.
Awesome.
I Jessica, I'm so surprised how quiet Dan is. Because your poor wife, Dan. I love your wife so much. Hopefully, she will watch this episode and learn a thing or two about how to to run away from you or something like that.
Come on now. She's the luckiest lady around.
Is she?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have no complaints. I have absolutely no complaints after 10 years. So things must be going well enough.
And how long have you guys been together?
Like dating wise too.
Dating wise and marriage?
13, I guess.
Let's start 15 years. That's insane. It's craziness how life flies by.
So check in with her and see who she is now from 15 years ago.
Oh, she's completely changed. It's why I think it's great. Like, I'm more difficult. She's difficult. We work so well together. It's
because all she does is roll her eyes at you. It's amazing.
Rolls her eyes at me because I'm ridiculous.
Her eyes roll, and you guys are so cute together.
But I would not want to be with someone that bored. I would be bored very easily. I dated girls before Melissa that were people pleasers, which bore me. I hate women that say yes to everything. Pet peeve. So Melissa will say no to things she doesn't want to do. I'm the same way, and I don't get mad about it. I'm like, all right.
No, just because someone says no to you doesn't mean it goes anything against you.
No.
They don't. Let's go see this movie. No, thank you. That doesn't mean she doesn't love you. It means she doesn't want to see that movie, and she has the security within herself to say, no, I don't. Now, is there ever compromise where it's like, can we please go see this movie because I really want to enjoy the time with you, and then we're going to do something else that you really love? Right. Of course there's that. But there are going to be experiences where he or she is not going to want to go to that event with you.
Right.
Has nothing to do with you. And if it triggers you, cool, don't brush that trigger under the rug. Bring it up and say, I didn't actually expect you to say no to this, probably because myself was very excited for you to come to this event with me. It would have meant this, this, and this, or these were my intentions for asking you. And I'm just curious about like why you wouldn't want to come, or I'm just going to actually let you know what it meant for me, and then I'm going to let it go. Because then there's a conversation, because maybe he's just saying no because he or she doesn't have an outfit to wear, but they actually would like to go. Or maybe they don't even understand how important it is to them or to you that they go. So they didn't even think twice because they've had a busy week and they'd rather just not. But if they hear that, maybe it will entice them a little bit more. See how communication actually helps people get into the other person's perspective and point of view so they can understand. And then when they've got those details, they can make choices for themselves.
I would just show up with a new outfit.
You would do that, really?
Outfits too. You want me to go where? This is a great excuse to go shopping, babe. Yeah. So you can't say anything. You want me to go there? I need new stilettos to match this perfect blazer that's going to go very cute with those jeans. And not only am I going to show up for you, I'm going to look great while I do it.
And here's your 15th purse to match the outfit.
Exactly. See, you and I would get along fantastic.
Just a romance. Look at that. Amazing.
Just a romance.
Well, I just love
Jessica, thank you. This
shopping's great.
Was really good. This was amazing. Great information. Very logical. Makes sense. If you want to reach Jessica, again, she's on social media. Jessica Mowforth, Mowforth on Instagram. Her website, jessicamowforth.com. Yeah. She's available. I guess you could contact you directly to your website or on Instagram.
DM me on Instagram. You can also reach out through my website. There's a place to email. So I love that you are literally like my cheerleader, even with your boss.
I think this is great. So thank you, Jessica, for being our first guest of the fall season. And we appreciate it. We probably will have you back because you did mention a few other things that I think we should touch on, maybe towards the end of the year for 2021, kind of, setting up someone for success next year. My final question is about 2020. Everyone's saying 2020, the worst year ever. And for me, I think I see clearly 2020 has been a great year for me. How do people get out of that whole negative mentality when they are either in a relationship or trying to start one during this COVID time?
I think that in order for things to fall into place, sometimes they've got to break apart. Everything sometimes falls apart for it to come back together. So instead of sitting in your own, look at this and say, okay, what has this taught me? What have I learned about myself in this process? And how can I grow from this? So maybe you've learned a lot of things that you don't actually need because you went without it during quarantine and stuff. Or maybe what you did learn is it's important for me. I think a lot of people are recognizing this is how much alone time somebody needs to refuel in order to have that full battery to give to a partnership. So if you now know that, what can you do for yourself in order to maintain that going through? I think this is a time that if you just let discomfort and crappy situations go by and you just get through it, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, because I truly believe that life happens for us, not to us. So if you don't look at this like, what is this here to teach me? How can I become better through this? Then you are giving away an opportunity to become better as a husband or a wife, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a daughter, a boss, a leader, a coach, a realtor, whatever you want to do. Use this and say, what can I learn in this? And if you don't know yet, every day, wake up and say, I am here. Thank you for a new breath. I am open to receive a lesson of what I can get about myself in this moment where the world seems to be falling apart. If not, it's brushed under the rug and you're just going to stay the same. And there is no fun, no excitement in that. So remember, life happens for you, not to you. Get self-aware, learn what you want, and go out and get it.
Well, Jessica, thank you. Again, we're going to end today's show, honestly. Great information. Again, Jessica Mowforth on Instagram, jessicamowforth.com. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You for having me. So much fun.
Anytime.
You bet.
Have a good day.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.